Greetings, everyone. We are live. So I'll give it a few seconds for everyone to load in. But while we're doing so, welcome to PB with Jay for those of you who are watching this after the fact. On this channel, we do lots of things from our own recipes to cookbook reviews and everything in between. Who do we got here? We got Vi from New York is watching. Alexandra from Massachusetts. Hello, Alexandra. We had you on the show last week. And Candice is watching too. So let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Feel free to say hello with each other. If you have a question you want to ask Candice, please put a Q in front of it. It just helps me find them quicker in the chat that I can queue them up for later on. That would be amazing. So my guest today doesn't really need an introduction, but let me give it a shot. She is a blogger, a YouTuber, a cookbook author, a mother and fosterer of dogs. Like myself, she's a brewer of kombucha, and she is the face of the Edgy Veg. To give you a sense of some of her videos, if you're not already familiar with her, some of her titles include Reduce Food Waste and Save Money, Make Kombucha, How to Eat as a Single Person, which is probably good for those of you who aren't necessarily single, but you have a partner who doesn't eat this way. Another one of her favorite video titles is What I Eat on My Period. Her most recent book is 138 carnivore-approved vegan recipes. It's available for purchase. Her mission is to revolutionize the way that we think about food, eco-conscious living, and feminism, all with a little attitude and a lot of fun. And she's a fellow Canadian who shares a love of big salad bowls, which makes her extra special awesome. Please welcome Candice Hutchings.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. I have to say something from someone who is in our members community. They wanted me to read this to you. Her name is Lenny. She said, thank you for motivating, inspiring confidence, tips, laughter. Since pre-COVID, you've helped her be okay with her solo whole food plant-based journey.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's such an honor. Honestly, like that's kind of how this whole thing started, was I just wanted to inspire people to live like a more plant-based lifestyle, even if it's not fully vegan. But also just the other side of things, like really just be like a champion for women, independent women, and feel okay in a world that wasn't really meant for us. So it's an honor to inspire, honestly.
Oh, well, I've been such a big fan of your stuff for so long. Definitely as I started my own plant-based journey too, you were one of those people that was like, oh, it's okay to get in there and be messy and be funny and not have to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, honestly, there's enough people in the vegan space taking everything super seriously. So we might as well have some fun with it, right?
Exactly. And I love to, and we'll get into this. I'd love too that you don't shy away just from being a real human being, that you're okay sharing, the ups and downs and struggles of life as you go along. And I think I hope I speak for a lot of people here, but I think that's super inspiring and really welcoming and appreciated in this world and space and time.
Honestly, I just show up how I am. So if people can resonate with that, that's even better.
I love that. Well, you had that video. It's probably a while back now, like the old Candice versus the new Candice, right?
Yes.
Which I think was such a beautiful, wonderful video that most people wouldn't bother making in this space, about just confronting that idea of identity and change, especially when you work in such a public forum. It's almost impossible not to, we're literally as I'm talking to you, we're getting comments coming in, so there's no shortage of feedback, good and bad.
Right. Yes. Always. Honestly. Yeah. I mean, listen, the bad is just always a little bit louder, but it's
right. Or we feel it more, right?
It's just like it's the silent majority, or the louder minority. Like the silent majority is all the good stuff. It's the people that are the loudest that you don't really want to hear. But I'm also open to feedback always, if it's constructive and respectful, of course.
That's just same with us on our channel. So just for those, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when I made that video, there was a number of reasons, and like we can get into this, but one of them was that I knew that people were going to mention something about things changing. So kind of like addressing that head on and kind of tackling those comments before they came in. That's actually one of the reasons why I decided to make that video.
Nice. Actually, because someone literally just asked that. Alexandra, who might not be as familiar with you, is just asking, what is the big change? Do you want to boil that down?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done 2 videos now that were like, it's a big change, old Candice and new Candice. The main one was after my divorce. I kind of went MIA for like 8 months and kind of came back and talked about how I just didn't really feel like who I was before online was very authentic to my actual personality. At the time, I mean, I'm sure everyone remembers, like, YouTubers were like these huge personalities. Everything was like over the top. Everything's amazing. This is the best. And like, not that that's like a bad thing, but my personality is kind of like dry and sarcastic. And
You're
I'm
Canadian.
yeah, it's like dry, sarcastic. I'm actually like very much an introverted extrovert. So I can be like loud and bubbly and excited about things, but I'm also really quiet.
Mm.
And I didn't feel the need to like over the top perform anymore. So after the divorce, I kind of talked about that. And a lot of the things that we were doing were things that he was telling me to do. And so the second time then was kind of like a rediscovering myself again. So it was like Candice 1.0, 2.0, and then 3.0. And just realizing that like a lot of the things that I was doing weren't very authentic. I wasn't sharing a lot of stuff too. I think during the pandemic, a lot of people online started to close up a little bit. And because 2020 was so
A dumpster
divisive,
fire?
yeah, and like devices, and like no matter what you said, it was the wrong thing.
Right.
And I just like, no matter what you did, it was the wrong thing. So I just started to like close myself off, and I found myself like really not sharing anything personal anymore. It was just essentially recipes. So then the 3.0 was like opening back up again and like feeling safe to open back up again and be myself and talk about actual things that matter. And like recipes matter, of course, but like topics like feminism and living alone, maybe for the first time, and not knowing what to cook, and going through struggles with dogs, if you're like a dog rescuer, or relationships or family, and like having the tough conversations.
Well, that's just it. And especially whether you live alone, or you're just like a person that's in your family that is the only person that eats plant-based or vegan, you can feel alone, right? I know just from, the comments on our channel, there's a lot of people out there that, don't have someone else and don't have support. So having someone like you talking about that makes them feel less alone, right?
Well, and I kind of started to adopt the idea of like, I'm just your vegan big sister. I mean, I'm a lot older than a lot of the YouTubers now, and TikTokers and Instagrammers, I guess.
And all the things and the snappers
Yeah, I mean, I started like 12 years ago, so I'm a lot older than a lot of these really popular kids that are starting to do this stuff. So instead of kind of being like, oh my God, I'm old, I need to disappear, like women have done for decades when they're in the public eye, I just kind of took the I guess moniker of like, I'm your vegan big sister. I'll like give you the big sister advice. I'll like help you through the tough stuff, and we'll be the best of friends.
Love it. And that's exactly how it comes off.
Yeah.
Let's take it a step back, though, for those who might not be familiar. What was your journey towards eating, however you identify, whether it's whole food, plant-based, or vegan, plant-based?
Yeah.
There's all the labels today, right? So
honestly, the lore goes far back. I actually grew up in a household with a mother who was eating mostly like plant-based before anyone really knew what it was. So like in the 80s, like she was making cashew cream for us in the 80s and early 90s. We were eating horrific like vegan hot dogs that she got from, so we're Seventh-day Adventists. That's how I grew up.
okay.
I don't know if you know much about the religion. It's
Yep.
It's Christian, but it's also like, it has a lot of like Jewish elements and also like Jehovah's Witness elements to it, in terms of like observing the Sabbath. But one of the things that they teach is very much like do the least amount of harm possible. And so they encourage their members to be vegetarian, if not vegan. So she was that as best as she could. So they had this thing that would come to each church once a month. It was called like the Bookmobile. And so you could buy like books, kind of like a Scholastic book fair, but for like church stuff. And one of the things that they also had were all these like substitutes, these meat-free substitutes that you couldn't get anywhere else. So I was eating a lot of that stuff already because we were mostly vegetarian. My mom very much stuck to like the foods in the book or in the Bible that were safe to eat and which ones weren't. So I essentially the only meat I ate really was chicken growing up. So that's kind of, it was always there. But I started to have a lot of pretty terrible skin issues and I had horrible migraines as a kid. And my family lives in Germany. And so homeopathy is a big thing over there and like naturopathic medicine. And we went to my grandmother's homeopathic doctor and he suggested cutting out animal protein, which I think like if I was over here, probably would not have been a suggestion that anyone.
No, I don't think it's a suggestion now with all the information that's out there.
Right. And it was like night and day. Like my skin cleared up, my migraines went away. And that's kind of where this started for me. So I was like, okay, interesting. There's something to this. So I couldn't have dairy. I really cut back on like eggs and things. I wasn't 100% free of those, but I really, really cut back and it made a huge difference. And while I was trying to learn how, like reteach myself how to cook, I was online as well. So I would fall into these like vegan pages and then I saw things I couldn't unsee essentially. And I went, okay, that's it. I'm vegan. And so it's kind of started out as like an accidental health journey. But what kept me vegan was an ethics thing. Like as soon as I saw the like hidden factory farm footage and all that stuff, I was like, no, I'm out. And I don't know, you live close to Toronto, right?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto. Yeah, I'm over like East Endy.
Well, maybe you remember these posters that they had in the subway from the Toronto Vegetarian Association.
Oh, the animal ones.
Yeah. And so they have like a chicken on one side and like a cat on the other, or like a pig on one side and a dog on the other. And it would say, why love one and eat another? Yeah. And so as soon as I saw that too, I was like, you know what? You're right. I grew up around farm animals in rural Germany. And then when we moved to Canada, I lived outside of Ottawa in the country and I was always around farm animals. I'm like, how did I never put this together? So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, I remember seeing those ads because that was around the time that I was starting to, I had a long journey from going like full omnivore to like pescatarian and then to like plant-based. But I remember it was during that time too that I was going towards the pescatarian vegetarian route and just seeing those ads and be like, ugh, it's like, and like you said, it's so hard to unknow the things that we know. Like it's so easy for past generations to not have considered like the ethical implications on that kind of stuff because it's all hidden, right? Like we all grew up with that version of the cartoon farmhouse and the animals that are all pasture raised.
Yeah, and I mean the cows on the bags of milk that are like, you know, out on the pasture with their little farm when that's like literally not what happens.
No, it's the worst version of that. But and we all and then those of it that don't think of that, they just like separate it, right? And they go, well, that's a product and we don't want to think about it. But I think no matter, it's funny, I was having this conversation earlier today with a friend, and I think no matter where you come to, whether it's plant-based, it usually is plant-based. Even if you come to plant-based not through the ethics of animals, right? If you come in through health, which a lot of people do, or you come in through environmental issues, which a lot of people are doing more and more, not enough, but more people are, you eventually can't help but get caught up in the ethics of it, right? Yeah. And it eventually becomes this, I think of it like the triangle of veganism where it's like the three things all connect to each other.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, the health side of it really now is like the last thing I'm worried about. Like it's definitely very much ethics now, then the environment, and then the health side of things. And honestly, like I saw TikTok yesterday or the day before, and it was this woman that said, I had no idea that if you see an apple on a tree that you could eat that. I didn't think that you could eat apples from trees. And somebody had stitched it saying like, no, a lot of Americans don't know that you can eat things from trees. I had this like I was doing work with some people at like a client's house or whatever, and they were eating the apples from the tree. And my client came out and she was like, no, tell them not to eat that. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't think. And she was like, no, like, not because it's like, because I care, because it's my apple and my tree, but you can't, those aren't edible apples. And he was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean they're not edible apples? She's like, you can't eat apples from trees. So even from a produce perspective, a lot of people are so far removed from the source of where their food come from. Like no one's teaching their kids, like apples grow on trees and we grow trees and we pick the apples and that's how they end up at the grocery store. I think a lot of people just think like they're just there. Or the same way that like a steak, they can't picture the steak coming from an animal. Like it's not a body part to them. And so I think that there's a huge disconnect more than I ever really realized, if I'm being frank, that like people just have no idea where food comes from.
No, which is even, and I could get that from like, our childhoods, we're around the same age. Because information wasn't there. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all the things. It's so hard. I just don't understand how we live in this day and age and all this information's out there and is more or less available and kind of in your face to some extent.
Yeah.
And people still just prefer to go like this.
I think it's also easier.
Yeah.
Because there's so much distraction now. Like, oh, I'm not going to learn about this thing. I'm busy learning about this other thing, or I'm distracted by this other thing. But I think for a lot of people, once you like, I'm sure a lot of people watching have watched like Dominion or like any of those movies that like really takes you to how horrific this stuff is. And I think once you see that, your mind is like blown in a way, like just everything you thought you knew was so wrong. Like a lot of people still think that like leather is a byproduct of the meat industry. It's not. They farm specific cows to make leather. Like it's not, it's the most wasteful industry that there is. We're not, it's not like a nose to tail type thing that like say like a small farmer or indigenous people, they use everything. It's not like that. Like everything has its own certain industry. And, I think a lot of people also think that like, oh yeah, chickens die or like geese die and then we pluck their feathers. That's just not how it is.
They all die of natural causes. Yeah, they die of natural causes peacefully.
Yeah, I mean, they're alive still when they do that stuff to them. So I think that there's so much information out there, but people are too scared because they'd rather be blissfully ignorant than have their mind opened up to what's happening. And that was the thing for me. Like if I like sit here and like am quiet, like sometimes just thinking about like the bunnies screaming or the geese screaming or cows, like the mothers having their baby, like you can hear these sounds, they like cry and it's awful. So I think about it too much. I like, even to this day, after being vegan for 12 years and not looking at any of that stuff anymore, it's embedded in my brain. It's just like seared in there. And so I just can't.
No. And I grew up in a small area where we had friends that were farmers, and they actually had those idyllic farms where they had like beef cows that were pasture raised. Like they were one of the few people doing it. So I had that extra like camouflage of going, oh no, everyone gets their meat this way.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember going and helping out and bring the cattle onto the trucks, not thinking that, oh, something terrible ends it the other way. Yeah. But I like my first big like shock for me was watching Richard Linklater's Fast Food Nation. Because at the end of that movie, they have like this giant kill floor sequence that's showing you all this, all that footage. And literally the next day I was at a friend's wedding and my plate comes over and it's steak. And I just stare at it. And that was the day I went, actually, you know what? I'm vegetarian now. I couldn't do it. I was like, I know I checked off the meat option but not, sorry, I'll just eat the vegetable part. And of course they literally just took the steak off. And I was like, oh, that's even worse. No dinner for me tonight. I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, even from that, like I've had pizzas delivered to my place that had cheese on them, or I've, ordered something in a restaurant and it's had like, it was cooked in butter, but they like didn't tell me until after, or they accidentally put cheese on it or whatever. And instead of waste it, I'll either like give it to someone else at the table, or when I first started going vegan, before it like grossed me out as much as it does now, I would just eat it because I'd rather it not be thrown in the garbage. If I send it back, it's getting thrown in the garbage. And I think that's almost worse, because then that animal suffered for nothing. So if I can't give it to someone, I would eat it or take it home for the dogs or whatever. Never meat, because I just can't. But even now when that happens, my dogs just eat really well that day, I guess.
That's just it. And so actually, there's something I wasn't necessarily going to bring this up, but someone made a comment that I won't pull up, but because this is a thing I think you probably deal with a lot too, is this idea of like labeling something vegan versus plant-based, because I think certain words have certain connotations. And even in our family, like I wouldn't say we're vegan by any stretch of the imagination, mostly because our kids still have dairy from time to time, because, they're on their own journey. So, the fact that I go to the store and I will purchase cheese for them if they want some, I would say probably can't make me vegan, because I'm still contributing to that economy. But it's also the kind of thing where it's like, I don't want my kids to just grow up and resent us or rebel. Like, they've got to come to it on their own time and space, So, but I think it's challenging. Like, do you find you use different terminology like now versus when you first started off in this space?
Yes, mostly because I think the word vegan has a negative connotation for a lot of people. So there is still this stereotypical idea of a vegan that can be very polarizing, that people immediately are defensive about. So depending on like my videos, for example, depending on what the video is or who I'm talking to, I'll either use plant-based or vegan.
Right.
I would consider myself a vegan because I don't buy leather. I don't buy feathers. I don't buy, as much as possible anyway. I really try to stay away from any sort of animal product. We live in a non-vegan world, so sometimes that's not doable, but I try the best that I can. I mean, you get people that are like, oh, so if you bought a car secondhand and it had leather seats, like you're just not gonna, okay, well, that's a bit different. Or like the gas in your car or like stuff like that. I mean, that's not even the definition of veganism. The definition of veganism is to abstain as much as reasonably possible. So not to like bend yourself into a pretzel trying to do it and like making your life extremely difficult and making everyone around you think you're out of your mind because you're doing this stuff, but doing it as much as possible. But when I film some videos and I'm talking to primarily a vegan audience, I will use the term vegan. If I'm talking to like a broader audience, I'll use plant-based, just because it's more inviting. It doesn't have the same like, like protesting in the street or in the grocery store or my favorite local restaurant type of like negative stereotype, or like screaming at me while I walk by. Like it just doesn't have that. Or like that angry vegan trope, which sucks that people still have that. But also I find that if you use plant-based versus vegan, even just talking about food, if you say vegan, they're like, ew, I don't want that. That's not good. This is going to be terrible. But if you use plant-based, they also doesn't have that reaction. And I don't know why that is.
You know why? Because because like you said, it's like vegan's been around so much longer, right? So it's like, I think the people especially think of like a vegan, if I think of a vegan hamburger, I probably think of like something from 10 years ago that looks and tastes like cardboard. Right. And if you say a plant-based burger, you think of something like a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Patty or something like that, right? And I think that's just what people stick with, that the old vegan foods that taste awful and cardboardy versus delicious plant-based stuff that, a lot of people might not be able to tell the difference between one or the other.
Well, and there's so much amazing food technology now. I have a lot of friends, they're not vegetarian, they're not vegan, but they will, if the plant-based version is just as delicious, they'll buy the plant-based version every time. So I have a lot of friends that like try to not eat red meat, so they'll buy Impossible or Beyond Meat. And it's not because they're vegetarian or vegan, but if the alternative is just as delicious, they'll buy it. So many people don't eat dairy anymore and are buying like oat milk. Now that oat milk's out, people are like losing their minds because it's so good. And I think that that's also kind of the like the different language too. Like I think a lot of that stuff people thought, oh, I can't eat that. That's for vegans and vegetarians.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to buy that. That doesn't make sense for me. But once they get educated or they like come across, or, I mean, my friends at my place, all I do is cook them vegan food so that they try something one time and they're like, oh my God, I can like, where do I have to buy this? A health food store? And I'm like, no, like Loblaws down the street.
You can No Frills.
Like food basics, like it's right there. They're like, oh, I didn't even know I could get this.
It's amazing. One of the video series we do on our channel is, I call it Cooking for Carnivores, which is a bit of a leap because the people are omnivores, but it's just doing that. It's like going into people's kitchens and just showing them what they can do with the ingredients they already have and just making it just feel like less like it's homework.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my first cookbook was called Carnivore Approved Vegan Recipes. And, you know, you get the trolls that are like, well, technically, and I'm like, okay, it's called hyperbole for effect.
Yeah. And it sounds more fun.
It sounds great. But yeah, it's the same type of thing. Like once you make it easy for them, people generally are good to stick with it. You make it easy. If it's when you start making everything complicated or it's too daunting for them to start. They don't know where to start. So I always tell people, if you want to like dip your toe into veganism or a plant-based lifestyle, like take your 10 favorite recipes and just veganize them. Use the store-bought pre-made stuff to start. And then if you want to save money or make it less processed, for example, then, you know, you slowly start to tweak those recipes in that direction as well. But start with buy the Impossible Foods, buy the Day of Cheese, like do all that stuff from what's available at the store. It's about the same price now as like everything else anyway, with the food prices in Canada. And make it really easy for yourself. Like, don't think that, oh, I'm going vegan, so I have to eat kale salad. If you didn't like kale before, you're not going to like kale now just because you're vegan. So stop thinking with this like ridiculous mindset that you don't apply to anything else in life that you try.
No, you will get your vegan superpowers after 6 months, but you still won't like kale. So speaking
honestly,
of
I was just going to say, honestly, to this day, I can only eat kale a handful of ways. So I get it.
That's and once you get more comfortable in the kitchen too, it's amazing how you can make food taste good that you didn't think you would like before. Like, you know, anyone that doesn't like kale, I'm just like, try a kale chip that's made well.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like then it doesn't taste like kale, it tastes like flavoring, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been in this space for a long time. What was your journey into that? So you grew up in this amazing upbringing where you were already kind of like, you already knew what cashew cream was and all, and you had this amazing vegan food truck that showed up with things from the future, apparently. What brought that to you? Like, what made you turn this into, you know, your life's work so far?
It actually started completely by accident. So I had to reteach myself how to cook. Essentially, I grew up in Germany and we traveled a lot in Europe, and there were full meals that were just bread and cheese and like tomatoes. And that was your meal, or like bread, cheese, and like meats. And so there were, and I mean, we ate cheese on everything, butter on everything. So I had to reteach myself how to cook the foods that I loved, because I knew I would not be able to stick to this if I couldn't eat the foods that I loved. I'm a huge foodie. And that was my first concern, was like, how do I make this so I can stick with it and make it easy? And I started making these dishes, and I would take like a photo on my digital camera and I would email them to my mom. And she constantly wanted the recipes. And then she'd send me her friends' emails and like, they want the recipes. And I just was like, there's got to be an easier way to do this. So I just got a blog spot, and I would take these like shitty photos and put the recipe up on the blog spot, and people started reading it. So that's how the blog started. And then I had someone reach out to me from a production company, and they're like, we have this idea for like online shows, like mini webisodes, and we want a food one. And we thought about you, like, have you done videos before? So I did a couple of videos with them, and I was like, oh, this is like actually fairly easy. So then I started doing them by myself and started the YouTube channel. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. After YouTube, the next natural progression was Instagram when that came out, and then TikTok and yada, yada, yada. And here we are now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
That's
how it
amazing.
happened. It was totally by accident.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like my tradition, I'm a filmmaker by trade. That's my background. But it's very similar. It's like I went through, my story was like through losing half my body weight from going plant-based, and then millions of people, everyone that I knew was like, well, give me your recipes, tell me what you did and this and that. So I was like, well, if I just, let me put this all into a website and then make some videos, because it's easier to share that. And then of course,
Yeah.
it just
Well, and at
kind of
the time,
snowballs.
there really was not very much content. We had Freely the Banana Girl, who immediately people either loved or hated. And I would look at those meals and go, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? Why is she eating like full heads of lettuce and 17 bananas every day? And I was like, no wonder people think vegans are crazy if this is what's out there. So there was another woman whose name I forget, but she was around at the same time. And I think Fully Raw Christina was the other one. And so like cooked junky, like foods and fast food copycats, like there was none of that. So I was like, oh, ding, ding, ding. That's my niche now. Like if vegan food you actually want to eat was kind of like the tagline, because at the time it was like millet and kale and 12 bananas for breakfast. So that's
The same
there was a
smoothie and
hole.
oatmeal concoction over and
Yeah.
over
Oh
again
my
at
God.
nauseam.
To this day, I refuse to eat oatmeal. I refuse.
I still
Can't do
enjoy
it.
it.
Can't do
No?
it.
What's your, I mean, this is a whole other portion of questions I might get to later, but what is your go-to breakfast then these days?
I love bread. So all kinds of bread. I bake my own bread and make like bagels and whatever. So a lot of like avocado toasts, or I make tofu cream cheese. So I'll like load that up and then I'll just fill up, whether it's with avocado or the cream cheese as the base. Or sometimes I'll use like an egg substitute or whatever. And then I'll just fill it up with veggies. I'll like chop up a bunch of veggies, throw that on there, throw some tahini on. I'm not really like a sweet breakfast person. I'm more of a savory breakfast person myself, personally. And I can prep that really easily. So I can just go in every morning and it doesn't take me forever. I also don't really eat breakfast at a normal hour. I eat at like 11:30, 12, because eating in the morning just doesn't work for me. And so it's like nice, it's easy, it kind of feels like lunch. But yeah, no, my mom would make us eat at breakfast every day, and I feel like I have PTSD from that.
That's funny.
Or sorry, not breakfast.
Like
Not
oatmeal?
porridge. Oatmeal. Thank you. She called
Yeah.
it porridge. But
I have the two terms. My Instant Pot tells you me that it's porridge.
okay. Actually, I think
But
mine does too.
yeah, I remember like it's funny because before I went plant-based, I was a savory breakfast guy for sure. And now that's when I have like my fruit and my sweet things. And then the rest of the day I'm pretty savory. But it's funny that now that's what I prefer. And if I have like an avocado toast or like a tofu scramble, that's lunch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I grew up eating sweet stuff for breakfast, like not when my mom was making it at home, but if we were at my grandparents, or like when I lived in Germany, it would be like pastries and like Nutella and stuff like that. But at the time, there was no vegan version of that at all. Like, good luck trying to find a vegan croissant now easily that isn't $7. But back then it was impossible. So
Yeah.
I just kind of ended up phasing it out. And I think I just, over the years, just never thought about a sweet breakfast again. I mean, even my pancakes, I don't like to eat it with maple syrup. I don't know what's wrong with me.
What do you put in your pancakes?
Butter.
Yeah. I like to just like, usually I just take some like frozen fruit and put it in the microwave, and then it melts, and the liquid that comes off of it
yeah,
is
like a
perfect.
coulis or like a jam too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Poor man's lazy microwave coulis.
Yeah, I mean, maple syrup just makes it soggy, and I don't like. I'm a big texture person, so I think also that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, love
I'm a bad Canadian, is what I'm saying.
That's okay. So if everyone has any questions, feel free to throw some into the comments, put a Q in front of it, so that way we'll get to those as they come up. I'd love to ask you one of the things, and look, cis white dude here, obviously, but one of the things that even I respond to, because I've got a young daughter, I have a wife, in a lot of your stuff, whether it's on YouTube or the other social platforms, is just how open you are about just talking about, for lack of a better term, some of the bullshit in this world that, women have to deal with and people have to deal with. And I was just curious if there's anything you wanted to, touch upon that mostly to, for other people that are listening that might not necessarily be as confident as you are in it. And I'm sure that confidence comes from a lot of other places, you know?
I mean, for me personally, it came from advocating for myself, and it kind of just trickled up mostly in health stuff, because that's a whole other topic, women and healthcare, and how no one cares to research our bodies, or I don't know, heaven forbid we look into the gender that births everybody. But
I'm working
so a lot of
on a show with a friend about endometriosis, and just all of that is such a horror show that I'm learning
yeah.
more and more about every day.
Well, even I saw a post the other day and they're like, "Oh, we're making anesthesia available for people that don't want to sit through painful tattoos." I'm sorry. I have to get my IUD inserted and removed without any sort of painkiller. If I have a biopsy, you're going to do that without a painkiller. But some Chad that's, I'm sorry, a baby and can't sit through a 3-hour tattoo gets to be put under. Are you out of your mind? Like, make it make sense. But with healthcare stuff, I actually was diagnosed with endometriosis eventually. But constantly they kept trying to put me on birth control and like telling me there was nothing wrong. And I just had painful periods. And I'm like, but painful periods are not normal.
No.
And I would research a bunch of stuff, and it took me like 4 or 5 times advocating for myself, or like putting up a stink and like, no, you're going to listen to me. I'm not leaving this doctor's office until you listen to me. And I did that and kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it until someone listened to me. And slowly it just empowered myself to have that confidence that I eventually started to get, and started to feel more comfortable saying, no, this is not okay, or no, you're going to listen to me. I slowly started to have that trickle out into all the other areas of my life, with, dealing with relationships, or even the internalized misogyny that we're all brought up with through, what we see now on social media, or what we saw when we were younger, and even like kids' cartoons and like TV shows and movies. And so
Everything, songs, pop culture, video games,
yeah.
t-shirts.
And just, accepting like, oh, you're on your period, like that's why you're blah, blah, blah. Okay. Like it slowly started to trickle into all the other areas. So it's kind of like a muscle. Like you just have to keep advocating for yourself, and eventually it becomes easier to do everywhere else. But I also found that a lot of things just started to be me educating people, which is exhausting. But somebody's got to do it. So even just the people in my life, my parents, I mean, there were some things that my parents would tell me, and even my mom, and I'm like, what do you mean? You're a woman? Like, this is not true. This is completely false information. What are you talking about? So just trying to teach everyone. And I think confidence is like the first thing we need to teach women, because so many of us are afraid to take up space. We just want to make ourselves as small as possible, even with things like weight loss. Like, I look back at photos of myself when I was in my 20s, and I, at the time, swore I was like overweight and unhealthy. And I look back now and I'm like, that is the tiniest human being I've ever seen in my life. Like, what is our obsession with just trying to take up the least amount of space possible in every aspect of our lives? So just like trying to get women to be more confident and advocate for themselves, and, not just take shit because you think you have to, because we really don't. And trying to, dispel all those myths and those things that we're taught that are just so misogynistic and really insidious. Like, it's all very insidious. So I think that's kind of how it started. And then I got less afraid to be called an angry feminist. I mean, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Well, and if you're a dude, you just be called a confident male.
Yeah. Right. Like, it's like, why are you a boss and I'm just bossy? Like, it's like the Taylor Swift song.
Yeah,
like,
the Taylor Swift song, The Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's exactly it.
Yeah. I want my daughter to grow up to be you, Candice, is basically what I'm trying to say. But that's just it. Like,
that's a huge compliment. So.
No, but especially in this day and age, like, especially the ideal version of what a woman should look like, right? I know my daughter now, she's 12. She might be horrified for me saying this. I think she's okay because we've talked about it openly, but just she's got an athletic frame, You know, she's
Mhm.
built like a brick shithouse, you know, does like silks and ropes and is just like
That's
athletic.
amazing.
But for her, like I remember one day came home and was just like, why I want to be skinny like all my friends. And just having to explain to her, I'm like, well, you have a different body type than your friends. And not all people have the same body type. And you can't get a body type just by wanting it. Like, this is yours. And it was having to, like, you know, get her to talk to some of my adult cousins who have a similar frame, but also just, you know, show her like a website going, here are the actual different body types for women. And if you're worried about how clothes look on you, you can just find the way that looks best for you clothing wise and whatnot, right? You don't have to try to pretend to be this other person. Be who you are in the body that you're given and do that. And I see that with you and your content. And, you know, anyway, I just wanted to put a little spotlight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to excessively work out, but it was all like cardio stuff. And I also wouldn't eat, you know, when I was younger. So I would do all this working out and I was never building any muscle because I was afraid to. But also I wasn't eating. I wasn't eating protein or anything. So it just wasn't happening. And I remember, I think I was like 26, 27 when I finally was like, I started to like lift weights and do a lot of strength training. And I like got these like shoulders that I really liked and I liked the definition. And people were like, aren't you afraid of like looking too like muscular? I'm like, I would much rather look strong and healthy than like frail. And if you like flicked me, I was going to fall over. Like skinny doesn't equal healthy the same way that fat doesn't equal unhealthy. And we are built a certain way. You cannot change your bones. You cannot remove a rib. I mean, you could, but we're not going to. There's just certain body types that people are that you can't get around. And the fact that we all think that we're going to fit into this like one box is insane to me. And I much prefer now just to look healthy. I just want to look. I stopped looking at the scale 10 years ago. Just because if I start to feel a bit off, then I'll kind of be like, okay, what's going on? But if I like what I see in the mirror, that's good enough for me. If I feel good and strong, that's good enough for me at this point.
Yeah. And I've gone through like a weird body dysmorphia myself because I went from literally twice the body weight I am now to like, I went way too far at one point. Like I lost probably 40 more pounds than I should have. And I got to the point where people thought I was dying because I was like gaunt and skeletal.
Yeah.
But in my brain, I'm like, well, skinnier is healthy, right? Where, you know,
that's
dealing
what we're
with
told.
Yeah. So all of us.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to feel winded walking down the street. That's crazy.
No.
Like no one should live like that.
No. So I know another part of your, you know, your Candice 2.0, 3.0, whatever version of Candice you're on right now. I'm on Jeremy like 20.0, and there's at least 50 more versions that are coming. I know one of the pieces of your puzzle is the environment. So I'd love to know, you know, we don't have to grouse in this a lot, but it's like, what's pissing you off these days? Because there's a lot that's pissing me off.
So much. But
Do
honestly,
we have 5 hours? Yeah.
Honestly, more than anything though, are people's like idiotic arguments for things. Like they'd much rather like sit and argue with someone on the internet about what the like tiny thing that they're doing wrong than like, I don't know, go talk to the 20 corporations that are polluting more than anybody else in the world. This idea that like I'm supposed to meticulously recycle, but some like idiot company corporation, like there's nothing I can do. There's nothing we can do as individuals. Like I know that there's that saying, like, if you don't think that you can make a difference, like have you ever been in a room with a mosquito? But when it comes to the environment, it just isn't that way. Like we need to get the corporations on board or else like we're kind of doomed at this point. That drives me crazy.
We were working. Sorry, I keep on cutting you off.
I was just going to say, and like people attacking vegans, like, oh, vegan leather is just plastic. Okay. Do you have this same like anger for, I don't know, the big corporations? I don't know, the airlines that would rather fly empty planes just to keep their roots than downsize? Like, where's your anger for them? Like, I really hope you have the same gusto
right when
you go to them as you do for me, an individual person.
That's just it. We were trying to work on a we go a month without using plastic kind of type video.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's impossible. You
It's
can't do it.
impossible. I
You
am
know,
very cautious and I take out a full bag of garbage every day. I live alone. That's crazy. You can't buy anything
no,
without
and
plastic.
especially if you shop at Costco, there's packaging inside the packaging.
Yeah.
It's insane. The thing that's got my ire up these days, and I did a video about it a couple of weeks ago, was just like really because there was a new report that came out on just government subsidies and all of this. And, I'm sure you hear this all the time too. It's like, well, I'd eat vegan or plant-based, but it's just so expensive. And I just think of it as like, well, maybe if the government actually, as we're Canadians. For those that aren't Canadian, don't know this, in 2019, the Canadian government changed their food guidelines for the first time in forever. And for the first time, it was made with actual science and not just industry support. It wasn't funded by the dairy farmers of Ontario. And they actually removed dairy completely as a category. And they, said plant-based proteins are better than animal-based proteins. And yet they did nothing to change the amount of government subsidies they put into the meat and dairy industries, and didn't shift some of that money over to the plant agricultural system to make those foods actually more affordable for their citizens, who they said that food was healthier for.
Yeah, it's artificially low. Like the prices are artificial when it comes to that stuff. Like when somebody's like, "Oh, but eating plant-based is so expensive." I mean, if the dairy industry and the beef industry wasn't getting those heavy government subsidies, it would be just as expensive. And I always say this to people too. They're like, "Well, what are the farmers supposed to do?" If the government just created some sort of package or like outline of how to go from being like a dairy farmer to farming something like soy, for example, or like other crops that are used in a lot of different industries. Like if you're a farmer, you're a farmer, you're a farmer, you're a
That's just
farmer.
it.
And
They're just making a
so
product. They'll make a new product.
if you give them some sort of like gateway that's like easy and like use the subsidies to like, okay, we'll like subsidize a certain amount of the new machinery that you need, and help these hold their hands and like get someone that actually knows what they're doing to create those abilities for farmers to become like crop-based farmers. I think they would do it, and I think that they would make more money, honestly.
100%. I grew up near tobacco country in Ontario, and a lot of those farmers that were, growing tobacco, when the industry shifted away and smoking became less popular, and a lot of those farmers shifted over to soy.
Yeah.
So
So
and they didn't care.
we can do it. Yeah, they don't care. As long as they're making money, they don't give a shit, honestly. But I just don't know why we don't have that. We use the same programs. Like they made it so easy for them.
That's just it. And so that's the thing that drives me most nuts, is just those kind of things that we aren't doing that we should be doing, based on like the fact that our food guideline is saying this, but we're paying for this. And also what this is doing is really bad for our environment. And we have so much information that backs that up, that, the animal agricultural industry is so much worse than transportation. And yet everyone goes, well, we got to focus. Everyone needs a Tesla. And, that's great. But it's like, sure, do that, but also maybe focus on the thing that you can actually affect every single day. Right. And even if you don't want to go.
I think the government would save a lot of money in a lot of different areas if they just got a couple really brilliant people that have studied the stuff into place and started creating these avenues for people to live more environmentally, or farmers to be able to like transition. Like I think that we would have less pressure on so many different industries, and it would be less expensive for our own government. But I feel like getting anyone to start anything that actually is meaningful is so difficult, because we're all fighting over bullshit. We're fighting over trans kids and just shit that doesn't actually make any sense to fight about. Like it's all these like talking point political things that we're arguing about, when if we actually took the time to like be like, no, like pardon my French, but fucked if we don't do something in the next, actually, if we didn't do something 20 years ago, you know what I mean? Like if we just got, a lot of people got their heads out of their asses and started to actually care about things instead of just rage baiting each other online, I think we could probably get somewhere.
And just giant corporations who there will never be enough money for them.
Yeah.
They will never be happy enough with whatever amount they make that year. Especially I don't understand how people of these giant companies who have children and some of them grandchildren don't look at the legacy they're actually leaving.
Right.
They're going to leave a giant bank account for their grandkids. Great. Have fun breathing outside.
I mean, maybe there's something going on up in Mars that we don't know about, and they're just going to get in their dick-shaped rocket ships and fly to Mars with their families. Who knows? But
Sandy,
I couldn't imagine having kids. But I mean, listen, if I also feel that probably they don't really care that much about their kids either if they can't care about the greater collective.
Yeah. Sandy left this comment here. I just wanted to put up that I'd love to look more into. A lot of the Aggies at Guelph are preparing to change their family farms.
That's amazing.
Well, that's a start. That's good to hear. Thanks, Sandy, for letting us know that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I saw somewhere else too that there was another university somewhere that was working on biodegradable. Oh yes, it's also Sandy. University of Guelph is doing research on making biodegradable packaging and cutlery and other things. I think that's great.
There's a lot of cool things going on at the University of Guelph. That's also where a friend of mine is, Joa, who has an ice cream company in Kitchener and Waterloo called For All. She went to Ice Cream University there, and that's where she learned how to make like the most delicious, creamy, plant-based ice cream.
Oh, awesome.
So lots of cool stuff going on at the University of Guelph in the food and plant-based sector. I just will be really quick about this, but I know that you're a kombucha brewer yourself.
I am. I'm kind of obsessed.
Do you have like a main mother SCOBY that you still brew like? And does it have a name? Have you named it?
I did name it, but now I can't for the life of me remember what I named her. It's been so long since I've used her. I have a whole SCOBY hotel right now because I brewed so much kombucha that I had to get like a second fridge. I got like a little bar mini fridge.
You have the healthiest gut microbiome.
Right? And I wasn't drinking it fast enough. And now I don't remember what I named her. But yeah, I'm kind of obsessed and I miss making it. But we're slowly getting through it. I'm like giving it away to friends now so I can keep going.
It's good for salad dressings and stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually started making sourdough too. That was a fun little experiment trying to figure out how to make a starter.
My sourdough starter I got from somebody else, but my kombucha SCOBY I grew from scratch.
Okay. Yeah. People don't realize how easy it is. Actually, all you need is like a plain bottle of unflavored kombucha.
You do need that to get it started, but to grow your own SCOBY, you literally just brew the tea you would brew to make a new batch and leave it for a month. You don't have to do anything else.
Oh,
that's it. You just leave it for a month.
The way that I grew mine was I bought a bottle of unflavored kombucha. I brewed the tea, and then I added, I think it was like 1 cup of tea to half a cup of the kombucha, and I just left it for like a month.
Did I have to start with some? Maybe I did. Huh. Anyway, my SCOBY's name is Walter because he's a cranky old man, but he has made many children and grandchildren throughout the Toronto area as I've passed them around as they go.
I know. I've been giving them out like crazy too. I have like 20 of them now. So it's going to be.
What's like the wildest flavoring pairing you did that worked way better than you thought would?
I blended up a bunch of strawberries and then mixed it with lime juice.
Oh, that would be so good.
It was really good. You get this like really thick puree at the bottom, and the SCOBY that grows in the bottle ends up being like super strange, but I take all that stuff anyway. And I put it through like a fine mesh sieve before I drink it, but it was very, very, very nice. The most recent batch I did was mango and ginger, which was amazing. Oh, I made kombucha with hibiscus flowers. So I brewed hibiscus tea, and it was like 75% hibiscus tea. And then the rest of it, like the other 25% was green tea, just so it has that, what is that compound that you need in the actual caffeinated tea to create the kombucha. But I made hibiscus flavored kombucha. And then I would just add whatever juices would go well with hibiscus. And it was absolutely delicious. Amazing. So good.
Have you ever taken like extra SCOBY when you had to peel it off and made gummies out of it?
No, I've heard that people eat it and it scares me.
Honestly, if you have a dehydrator or access to one, literally take that SCOBY, soak it in like a half a cup of maple syrup or whatever kind of sweetener you want, and then
Okay.
half a cup of whatever flavored juice you want. Let it sit for a day or two, and then throw it in the dehydrator overnight. And then the next morning, cut it
Yeah.
up, and you've got probiotic gummies.
You know what? I'm going to try that. Yeah,
Free
that would
tip.
make a crazy video. I think people would be like really horrified by that. So
Yeah, it looks gross, but
bait,
it's.
rage bait.
But here's the thing: I have kids that are picky. They love that stuff. They every time I make
Okay.
kombucha, they're like, "Has Walter got like a sibling
Well, and then
yet?"
you can toss it in a mixture of citric acid and like a cane sugar or something if you wanted to,
Yeah,
and then you have sour gummies.
make it real candy. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Walk me through. I'm just in the process of starting to potentially do our own book. So I'm asking people like yourself, what are the do's and don'ts, and you know, I'm sure you could talk about this for 5 hours, but of making a cookbook.
So I actually never wanted to make a cookbook. I have a lot of friends that are cookbook authors, and all of them have just complained about there's no money in it. It's so much work. Like it's really just a marketing tool. But I had a publisher come to me, and they were a small boutique publisher, and they kind of convinced me to do it. But you just kind of need time, honestly. You need the time. It takes a lot of work. The average cookbook takes like a year, if not a year and a half, to create. Um, and as much of the styling and shooting that you can make yourself or do yourself is also super helpful. So luckily I have a background in photography, so that was great for me, and I'm very artistic and I love to style food. So I styled both my cookbooks myself. I didn't end up shooting them myself just because I couldn't manage the prep assistant and style the food and take the photos because that would have been just a lot. And we'd never get anything done. But you need time, and you got to get ready to like throw out half your recipes, idea wise, anyway. If you're working with a publisher, a lot of things that you think are going to do well, really well, they might not agree with. And I think getting ready to like have to compromise on a lot of things if you're working with a publisher. I thought I could write whatever cookbook I wanted. I found out very early on that like this is a compromising give and take relationship. But if I had nothing else to do, I didn't have to, make videos now for 5 platforms as opposed to 2. I would totally love to just like on my own time write a cookbook again. I have some ideas. I might start doing just some ebooks that are like 25 recipes as opposed to 100.
That's what we're leaning towards, doing something like that we can control ourselves, don't have to deal with a publisher.
Yeah, self-publishing is great. Or like an ebook. A lot of people prefer ebooks anyway because they don't have to. It's better for the environment because of the paper. And you can, I don't know, you can pull it up, use your laptop, your iPad. I cook with an iPad a lot of the time.
And you can make it more affordable because you don't have to like all those hidden costs of, creating it, shipping it, all that stuff. You can just cut that off, and then people get it. You keep more of the profit, and they get a cheaper.
Well, and also with publishing too, you also don't have to give them a percentage.
That's just it, right? For all the work you did.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize. Like, I think you like my cookbook, I think I only get like 2 or 3% of sales. And a lot of people, that number blows their mind. But even when you get a cookbook advance, for example, if you don't sell that amount of money that they advance you owe them that money back through cookbook sales.
Yeah. Come knocking on your door and saying you owe them brownies for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I don't regret doing them. They were both fun experiences, and I worked with a team of like really cool people, which was great. I just think that for how much work it is now, I think ebooks are going to be the way that I do things.
Nice. So what do you do when you're not doing all of this? As much as you're comfortable talking about. I know I love the videos with the red light mask. Big fan of that.
Yep. Huge skincare girly, obsessed with skincare. When I caught myself in this like depressive and anxious spiral, and I would find myself like doom scrolling for like full hours. I have really bad ADHD, so I could very easily hyper focus on my phone, and all of a sudden it would be like 4 hours later. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been scrolling for 4 hours. So instead of doom scrolling or like spiraling in my anxiety, I started just doing skincare, and I became super obsessed with that. I'm a big music junkie. So I go to 1 to 2 shows every week, whether that's like a rock concert or going to see a DJ. I love dancing. I'm terrible at it, but I love to do it. And
That's my
usually
favorite
it's dark
combination.
and no one's watching anyway because they're all busy dancing. And if somebody's laughing at you, they don't belong there. So that's kind of how I spend my weekends and Thursdays, because a lot of shows are on Thursdays. And then I have my dogs. I love spending time with my dogs. I just got like an emergency foster, which is what I was telling you about at the beginning of the week. And so I haven't really fostered much since my other 2 dogs passed when I had 4 of them. But they really needed someone. So I'll randomly foster dogs, which is always a challenging but great experience and very rewarding. But my dogs are also getting old now. So as much time as I can spend with them, that's how I spend a lot of time too.
Yeah. We've got an older guy named Rufus, and he had a visitor last week that stayed with us for the week who was a very different energy from him. And by the end, it was like he definitely missed her, but also was a little bit relieved that she was gone.
Yeah, this one that I have, I have her until tomorrow. And I have a girlfriend who was supposed to get her, and like there was like something delayed from bringing the dogs in from the States, and she was out of town. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. But she's sick. She has to be kind of like quarantined from my other dogs. So it's a whole thing. So she's with my neighbor right now because she's just barks and yaps and whines. But she's so sweet. And they're all different temperaments, and like you get to know them like you get to know people, and it's just like it's rewarding and wonderful. And I mean, I have Shih Tzus, so they all have their very extreme personalities, which I love.
So just a request from Holly. She wants you to play Candy Crush while wearing your red light mask. Just I'm throwing that into the universe so that you're aware of that request. I'm not responsible for anything that comes out of it.
Yeah, I try to listen. I'm on my phone all day, so as much as I can be off my phone, I try to be. And when I'm wearing my red light mask, I'm usually listening to a podcast or doing housework.
And my son came up last night, and he's into video gaming, and he was like, he just wanted to read books. So we just read on the couch. We just read books for like an hour together.
That's amazing.
He's reading Stephen King's It. I'm like, that's not the book you want to read before bed, but go for it.
But you do you, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, reading. Yeah. We talk a lot about book recommendations on stories and stuff. So
nice.
Big fiction person.
What are you reading right now? Do you got something you're...
I actually just picked up, this is going to make people laugh. I just picked up Julia Fox's memoir because I kept hearing it was so fascinating and really good. So I started it, and it is indeed fascinating. And so far, very good, which I didn't think was going to be the case, but that's what I picked up. And the book that I had finished before that one was, oh my gosh, they've all been memoirs lately, was Britney Spears' memoir. Interesting story. Not a very good author.
No ghostwriter, huh? No ghostwriter.
No. And when she was like, no, I wrote it all myself, I was like, oh no, I can tell. But we love that for her. But the stories were like quite hilarious and all over the place. But generally, I'm a fiction reader, actually, more so than memoirs and stuff. But those just happened to be the last 2 that I've read.
Nice. I don't want to keep it crazy longer, but I have a couple like quick things I want to throw at you that I like to throw at my guests for fun. And especially because you create recipes. What are the last 3 great meals you had?
Ooh. I eat ramen on a regular basis. And I don't know. They're always a little bit different, and they're always like so good. I make my lasagna frequently because I love pasta and I love lasagna, and it's actually so easy to make, and I can freeze it. Today we made a looking over at what I filmed today. I I made one of my favorite recipes, which is actually based off of my friends who owned a restaurant 5 years ago, and they called them pad thai fries. And I adjusted the recipe a little bit, made them kimchi fries. So it's like really crispy fries tossed in this like sriracha butter lemon sauce, and then kimchi on top, and green onions and some sesame seeds. It's so good.
Well, even
So
the pad thai fries is not a recipe I'd come across yet. So that just blew my mind.
Yeah, the only difference between my version and their version is their version had bean sprouts and green onions, and there was something else that I cannot remember now. But very, very, very good. Very good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So say someone's starting to get like a little bit more serious about cooking and being in the kitchen. You can only recommend 3 kitchen tools.
Vitamix.
Okay.
I mean, a Blendtec works too, but Vitamix.
High-speed blender.
Yeah. Vitamix is the easiest, I think, to use. Food processor.
A food processor and a Vitamix when you only get 3? That's bold.
Well, because there's things that you can do in the food processor that you can't do in the blender.
Yeah.
And then I'm like picturing what's in probably like an Instant Pot or pressure cooker.
Solid choice.
Yeah, I think those 3, because everything else, like a chopper, you've got knives for that. A hand blender, you've now got an actual blender for that. Like maybe if I could pick 4, like maybe a deep fryer, but a tempura deep fryer.
Yeah.
Because you can actually clean that one. It doesn't get all disgusting and grimy.
And creepy and whatnot. Yeah. Those 3 things that you mentioned are things that are like, if not in like multiple time weekly, daily rotations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then I'm going to modify this, but what would be like 5, say someone's going to start eating, plant-based vegan, what would be 5 must-have pantry essentials they might not have bought before?
Nutritional yeast.
Yes, nooch. You'll hear it called nooch. That's what it is.
Yeah, nooch. Some sort of TVP, whether it's like chunks or the like kind
soy
of
curls,
brown beefy looking ones, or soy curls. Like I would, if I had to pick between the 3, I'd probably go soy curls because they're amazing. Pantry, beans and lentils. If I had to pick between the 2, probably lentils. You can
and those things are amazing for your microgut biome because they help you digest your food the next day. On your system. So
yeah,
where are we at?
3?
3, yeah, 3 there.
What else is in my pantry?
Those are good ones.
I'm picturing. I mean, I'm trying to think of like staples and not jarred or canned things.
Those are okay too. Shelf staple's better, but
yeah, shelf stable is better. I mean, tofu is not a pantry staple.
Some of it is though. There's some tofus that are shelf stable.
Oh, I know, seaweed. So whether it's like kombu or nori or wakame or some sort of seaweed, then you can make bomb like fishy type recipes. So we're at 4 now. 1 more.
And it's also just great to snack on. Our kids grew up snacking on seaweed.
Yeah. I mean, listen, flour. I guess you would buy that anyway. But pantry staples.
I put you on the spot.
Cashews?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't buy cashews.
Cashews are perfect because they're so neutral, right?
Yeah. Cashews or sunflower seeds. If you want to go cheaper than cashews, unroasted sunflower seeds, because you can use them interchangeably.
Do you find they don't have like a bit of earthy flavor?
If you get the raw ones and you soak them, I find you can get rid of a lot of that.
Okay.
I wouldn't interchangeably use them for everything, but most of the stuff that I would interchange them with have other really intense flavors. So like garlic or onion powders or whatever. So if you have like overpowering flavors, I think you can use them interchangeably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like
if you're making
dressings and
Yeah, if you were making like a vanilla cashew cream, you wouldn't want to swap it out with sunflower seeds.
No,
But
no. Tofu though, you could. That's cheap. Like a
silk and
tofu.
tofu you can swap in there too sometimes for some things like that.
Somebody wants to come say hi.
Oh, we got a doggy coming.
We got a doggy. Just pawing at my leg.
Is this the visitor who leaves tomorrow?
No. She's with my neighbor because she's just yappy and barky and cries a lot. So I gave her to my neighbor. But the other two are fairly quiet as long as no one's knocking at the door. This is Harley. She has one eye and she's blind. And she got groomed today, which we love.
She looks gorgeous.
Very good. You hear that?
So what's next for you? All the stuff, you got a million things you're doing actively on 50 different social media platforms, but is there anything in particular you want people to look out for? Anything you're excited that's coming up?
Well, actually, I want to kind of try my hand at like group trips. So going places with followers. So that actually launches next week. So I did a survey and a lot of people wanted to go to Bali and they wanted an inexpensive trip. So we picked Bali and it's, I think it's like $2,200 for the week. And that includes your hotel and your breakfast and one other meal. So whether it's lunch or dinner, and we go do those things together. And yeah, we'll go in October. So I'm going to launch that next week. So if people want to go on vacation with me, they can.
That sounds like an incredibly fun thing.
Yeah, and it was super fun to plan too. Yeah. I looked into like a lot of the different sanctuaries. Are they actually sanctuaries? Are they making money type thing and abusing the animals? But we're going to 2 different places in Bali as well. So some of the time will be spent kind of inland, and we get to do cooking classes and look at their farming practices. And then the second half of the trip, we get to stay at the beach, which will be super fun. Yeah.
Are you going to do like a vlog style video of the trip, or are you just going to make it just the experience for them?
Yeah, I'm going to take my videographer, and then he'll just kind of be, videoing things that we do, and people that want to be in the vlogs, they can. And I'll probably stay a bit longer and, travel around the country a bit more. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I've met people here and there, like followers or fans or whatever you want to call them. And we've always had a great time, whether it's at like a nightclub or a concert or just out for food. And then we like pull our tables together. It's always been a lot of fun.
Lovely.
Our community has a lot of really cool people. So I think it'll be fun to hang out with everybody and get to know people. And hopefully if this goes well, then do it somewhere else. I don't know, maybe Greece next or Thailand or something.
Could be like an annual thing.
Yeah.
Love it. That's such a great, fun idea to like involve your community and just also just, I love that. Love that so much.
Well, and I find a lot of people have trouble traveling vegan, right? So whether
you're like their Sherpa guide.
Yeah. So whether they just like can't get the planning together themselves, or they're traveling with people that aren't vegan. So then you have to split your time between vegan and non-vegan things. This will be a totally vegan trip. All the food will be vegan. All the activities are vegan, and we vetted everything ahead of time. So you can go and just like, all you got to do is show up.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for everyone who is watching live or those who are watching afterwards. All of Candice's information is down in the description down below, so you can follow her on all her things if you don't already. I'm sure most of you do, because she's like the goat of plant-based fun awesomeness on multiple platforms.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Well, so much fun. Well, we'll say goodbye to the pooch and do all the things, people, and we'll see you all soon.
Yeah,